Hey guys, thank you for checking out my presentation. I want to apologize in advance for pronouncing some words incorrectly, but please bear with me. So with no further ado, I present to you Sumos, Geishas, and the adventures of the ever so amazing UTD students. An entire country slightly smaller than the state of California, Japan is located in Eastern Asia and is an island chain that lies between the North Pacific Ocean and the Sea of Japan. Within their boundaries, they have developed an intriguingly unique culture that has been well respected among their country, but is yet fascinating to the rest of the world. Elaborate rituals, performances, and delicious food continue to impress the world as their roots have a deeper meaning for the Japanese heritage. Among many interesting aspects that are related to the Japanese culture, two of the most common images when their culture is being referred to is a larger-than-life sport of sumo wrestling and their central geishas. So before I get further into this presentation, I'd like to let you know that I have created a trivia game within the presentation as an attempt to liven up your time spent with me. Shall we begin? So sumo wrestling is Japan's national sport, with which two sports coming in second and third? A. Karate and baseball, B. Baseball and soccer, C. Soccer and fencing. Baseball and soccer. Sumo wrestling is Japan's national sport and has remained the country's most favorite sport, with baseball and soccer coming in second. Sumo is known as one of the most unique and exciting full-contact sports in existence, which originated to be enjoyed only by the rich and powerful, now attracts fans of both men and women from all walks of life. Sumo is a match of strength between two large men facing off in a dojo, a circular ring, and the rules are very simple. What is not an objective of sumo wrestling? A. Forcing the opponent out of the ring. B. Forcing the opponent to touch the ground with any other body parts besides his feet. Or C. Fight until one opponent taps out. C. Fight until one opponent taps out is not an objective of sumo wrestling. The man who is able to force his opponent out of the ring or make any part of his body besides the sole of his feet touch the ground first is the victor. What maneuver is considered illegal in sumo wrestling? A. Tripping, B. Slapping, C. Hitting with a closed fist. Hitting with a closed fist. Although pushing, tripping, slapping, and various body throws are common in sumo, hair pulling, eye gouging, or hitting with a closed fist are not allowed, thus making injuries very rare. The average time of a match lasts A. 45 minutes, B. A few seconds, C. 2 hours. A match averages a few seconds, although some matches can go on for 2 or 3 minutes. There is a referee and a panel of judges watching to call any penalties and ultimately the winner. If you win a match, you will go up in rank. If you lose, you will be demoted. There are no second chances or appeals. Unfortunately, Japan did not keep any written records until the 8th century, so it is not known when the sport of sumo wrestling, sumo's original name, actually started. However, according to legend and paintings, the origins of sumo are ancient. The sport of sumo has evolved drastically from when it began. In its beginning, it tended to be extremely violent, and the wrestlers fought to finish with no given boundaries. They would also wear loose loincloths as opposed to the much stiffer mawashi of today, which is made of long lengths of silk that has been folded many times to create the belt. In February 1578, a major feudal lord, Oda Nobunaga, assembled over 1,500 competitors from across the country to fight in his castle. Since there were more than one fight going on at the same time, circles were drawn on the ground to speed up the proceedings and to indicate the area the wrestlers must stay within. Since then, sumo wrestling was given a circular boundary of 4.55 meters across, to which wrestlers must fight in. This ultimately led for a safer environment for spectators, and years later, bales of rice straw were placed around the edges of the circle to keep the boundaries secure, as the audience tends to like to gather around the ring to watch. This practice is still being used today. When first started, sumo wrestlers wore special ceremony aprons before the matches, embroidered with the feudal lords they served. In present day, they show off their lavishly embroidered aprons in the opening ceremonies of each tournament, denoting their birthplace, ranking, and the gym they belong to. There are 6 divisions in sumo. Each wrestler enters the sport in the lowest divisions and work their way up. They are rated between 1 and 17, 1 being the best and 17 being the worst. The top rank is called Yokozuna, or Grand Champion. Sumo is a very traditional sport that includes many rituals, including having a priest bless the ring before and after each match, and the use of salt for purification. The wrestlers also perform a leg-stomping shiko exercise to drive out evil spirits from the dojo before the match. This originates from the time when sumo was commonly practiced as a part of Japan's Shinto religion. Today, sumo still holds strongly to its religious roots, and each wrestler will ask for help from the gods to win the battles. Certain shrines still carry out forms of ritual dancing where a human ceremonial wrestles with a kami, a Shinto spirit or god. This was an important ritual for the imperial court. True or false? A sumo wrestler eats a very heavy breakfast consisting of a dozen eggs, half a chicken, sushi, and miso soup. False. A sumo wrestler actually skips breakfast in order to slow down his metabolism, as their goal is to gain as much weight as possible. Before I start the next part of the presentation, I do just want to mention that the word geisha, how most of us say, is actually pronounced geisha. Captivating the world with their glorious silk robes, beautifully adorned hair, pale white makeup, and red lips, geishas are another traditional symbol of Japanese culture. The history of geishas can be traced back to many centuries. So what does the term geisha mean? A. Japanese beauty. B. Call girl. C. Persons of the art. Persons of the art. Although there is a common misconception that geisha is a Japanese term meaning prostitute or call girl, the word geisha itself literally means person of the arts. What were the first geishas? Were they A. men, B. young girls, or C. teen girls? Ironically, the earliest geishas were men. They were known as taikomuchi, literally drum carrier. These male geishas were usually samurais who needed to make some extra income and often acted as entertainers, such as court jesters. What century did female geishas first appear? A. 7th century, B. 9th century, C. 13th century. It wasn't until the 7th century that female geishas appeared. They quickly became popular enough to steal clients and take over the business, being that they were much more captivating to their audiences. They often performed for nobility, and some were even private performers for the emperors. It wasn't until the 16th century that the first pleasure quarters were built in Japan. The 2 most famous geisha quarters, Hanamichi, can be found in Tokyo and Kyoto. The Yoshiwara pleasure quarters were designed to be the site for a brothel district, could be found in medieval Edo, as Tokyo was formerly known, and in Kyoto. They could be found in the Shimabara district. Brothels were not allowed to operate outside of these borders, and within them they had specific guidelines in which they were to abide. Some of the guidelines were that no customer was to stay in a brothel for more than 24 hours. Courtesans were to wear simple dyed kimonos, and any suspicious or unknown visitors were to be reported to the office of city governor. In these areas, kabuki actors and artists would entertain and mingle with the merchant class. From 1800 to 1868, Japan was isolated from the outside world, but was greatly developing their culture within. to much of what we think of when we think of Japan. This was the development of sumo wrestlers, actors, and geishas. Beyond their mesmerizing faces and glamorous acts, there were many aspects of the lifestyle that were far less glamorous. Many young girls were sold into the geisha life by their families until the mid-20th century. Often they were subject to the ritual of mizuaji, where their virginity was sold to the highest bidder. Much of these practices were eradicated after World War II, and the geisha profession as a whole went into a steady decline. Although geishas still exist, modern-day geishas play a minor role in Japanese entertainment. They attract mainly the attention of tourists with their mysterious characteristics, while most of these women who often are photographed are either maikos, apprentice geishas, or some tourists just plain dress up for a few hours just for the experience or to attract attention. The iconic makeup and clothing are essentially one of the most recognizable details of a geisha. They use a thick white compound called Bensuki Abura for their face paint. Their eyebrows are lined in red and black, and they use sapphire flower lipstick to color their lips red. They are often to be seen to only color the middle of their lips to emphasize delicacy. The pattern and style of the kimonos they wear depend on the season. In summer, they wear flat-soled sandals, and in the winter, they wear clogs called getas for outdoor shoes. Their hair is worn up, exposing their neck, which in Japanese culture is considered to be one of the most beautiful and erotic parts of a woman's body. Their hair are often adorned with ornaments, often to symbolize their geisha status. For example, there are 5 different hairstyles that a maiko wears that marks the different stages of her apprenticeship. What is this a picture of? A footrest, B, a pillow, C, an object to keep the bad spirits away. This is a picture of a pillow. The neogami hairstyle with kanzashi hair ornamental strips is most closely associated with the maiko, who spends hours each week at the hairdresser and sleep on hard wooden pillows to preserve the elaborate styling. These hard pillows keep their neck raised off the ground at night. As a result, geisha ensure that their hair remained perfect for days on end. Some geishas in training would have their heads surrounded by rice at night, so if they fell off the sleeping block of rice, the rice would stick to their hair. As a part of her act, some geishas even wear perfume for performances. Geisha are trained in many traditional skills, including Japanese ancient dance, traditional singing, playing traditional instruments, tea ceremonies, alcohol serving manners, calligraphy, poetry, the art of wearing the kimono, flower arrangements, etiquette, conversation, and social graces. Among these talents, they also make sure their guests are at ease and are having fun during dance performances and drinking games, which are usually done during Japanese banquets and special occasions. To become a geisha, girls traditionally begin their training at a very young age. Before the anti-child labor laws in Japan, girls could start geisha training at the early age of A1, B4, C9. Often children around the age of 9 will come to the geisha house to begin their long and elaborate training. This practice, however, disappeared in the 1950s when anti-child labor laws were developed. Often daughters of geishas were brought up as geishas themselves, usually as the successor or heir of the particular practice. The apprentice geisha, referred to as the maiko, meaning dance girl, is often bonded under a contract to her okaya. The okaya supplies her with housing, food, kimonos, and other tools for her training. Since the training is very expensive, the maiko must repay her debt to her okaya with her earnings. This repayment may continue after the maiko becomes a geisha, and only until her debts are repaid or settled is she allowed to move out to live and work independently. Maikos learn from their senior geisha mentor and follow them to all of their engagements. The senior geisha will teach her the trade and even help pick out the maiko's new professional name. Around the age of 20 to 22, the maiko is promoted to a full-fledged geisha and in a ceremony called irike, turning of the collar. This could happen after 2 to 5 years of her life as a maiko, depending on what age she debuted. She now will charge full price for her time. Although geishas are allowed to be in relationships, they cannot be married and continue to be a geisha. If she wishes to get married, she must retire from her profession. Other than that, geishas remain so until they choose to retire. Alright, I had a wonderful time with everyone in Japan, and I hope you guys enjoyed my presentation. But there's one last thing. Enjoy!